Good evening. It's my big pleasure that the director of this film, The Bread Day, Sergey Dvortsevoy, is here with us. Thank you for joining us in Ji.hlava. Welcome.
Thank you for inviting me. Thank you very much.
I have to say that watching your films at the end of the 90s was like a miracle. That this might be documentary filmmaking and it's contemporary and it's bringing us real cinema on the screen. And I was also surprised that at that time television was able to finance this kind of cinema. Maybe at the very beginning I should briefly summarize that Sergey Dvorcevoy did 6 films together. He started in 90s with 3 middle-length documentary films, even The Bread Day. The first one was Happiness, and then The Highway, again very beautiful masterpiece shot in Kazakhstan. In the next decade, you did only 2 films, yeah? One short documentary and the first feature-length film, Tulpan, which you probably could watch yesterday night. Again, great film, connecting documentary and fiction together. And in next decade, you shot just 1 film. So I'm curious, what would be in next decade, yeah? If you will shoot any film, I hope yes. Aika, which was screened last year in Cannes, and you probably heard that the face from the beautiful trailer you did for us is the face of this actress, but not during the shooting, but during some rehearsals and going somewhere in Moscow underground. And it's very significant for your work, but it's also good to mention that you just didn't start it or think about yourself as a filmmaker because you studied radio engineering, the same as Sergey Loznica, who studied cybernetics and then moved to filmmaking. So maybe if you can tell us more about the beginning, why did you move from such a technical educational system to filmmaking, to film, to cinema? You're not only the director, but you're editing your films, and so please.
I make for documentaries. I make a lot myself. I mean, also I make sound for documentaries. I edit maybe because I used once for my film, my film, I used professional editor, but then I didn't understand why I need this person who is not creative enough for me, because it was special, just ordinary, regular editor, but not creative editor, I would say. That's why maybe I did myself. Even fiction films I did myself also now. Because of my documentary past. Why I don't know why I joined film school. Really, it's very difficult to explain. No any reason, any sense. Just because suddenly I read advertising in newspaper, local newspaper. I lived in Kazakhstan at that time, and I read article about film school, and I decided to join. I don't know no reason. Just maybe it was boring for me to work for. I worked for Aeroflot, for Russian aviation company, for 9 years. It was maybe boring a little bit because airplane, it's just iron, and what is nothing interesting. I mean, if you know, it's a very technical job, and it was not. Maybe I wanted to have something creative, maybe, I don't know, but what I never dreamed about filmmaking. I didn't know filmmaking at all. I read a lot of literature, classical Russian literature, and also foreign, but literature was my, let's say, passion. But I applied. I applied for this film school and forgot about this. I sent they said, can you send us your photos or essays? I didn't have anything, no photos, no essays, nothing, and I just sat and wrote some essay or one short novel about my grandmother. and suddenly they accepted it. But I wrote and I forgot. But suddenly they accepted. They asked me to come for next step of exams, and I passed several steps of exams in Kazakhstan, then in Moscow, and suddenly I became a student of film school. And I thought maybe I made mistake because maybe I took some position of somebody else, but maybe it was wrong for me, I thought, because I didn't know anything. I saw just one documentary film. And they asked me, do you know documentary in these exams? I said, yes, I know. And I said one film, one Russian film.
Which one was it?
That was by Alexei Khanyutin. Maybe you know him. It's a good film, but I saw it just before exams on TV. Yes, really, I didn't know anything. I was just ordinary guy. They just captured me. Let's say. Captured me somehow, and somehow I passed exams. One step, next step again, and I have no idea why they took me. No, maybe they thought they took because when it was competition, like maybe five or even more people for one place, and all of these people were very. They were ready for this. They knew every cut of Tarkovsky. They during exams they talk about Tarkovsky cuts and everything. I didn't know anything. What Tarkovsky? Well, who is this? I didn't know. And suddenly they took me, and I didn't know what to do. Maybe they took 5 people. And I was one of these 5, and they took 5, and maybe they took 4 clever people, one just silly guy, just emptiness, emptiness. Maybe that's why. And maybe for me it was advantage because I didn't know filmmaking, and I saw films like first time as a child, I saw films, and I thought, why they make like this? Why not a different way? Why all films like similar, the same, That was for me, maybe I was lucky that I didn't know anything. But why they took me, nobody could explain afterwards. I asked my teacher, why you took me? What was... he said, we saw something. I don't know what they saw. I have no idea what they saw.
And do you remember films you did during your studies? Because this is something what's...
No, first film I made is Happiness.
It's Happiness.
Yes. First my study film. And then I made Birthday after this. I made just few films. Now, when I make master classes in some film schools, I see how many film students make. Sometimes 10 or 15. I made only 4 documentaries because different time, and we used film. All films I made on film. Birthday you saw now, it's 35 mil print, and it's different time. I don't know why I made so few films, so little, but maybe because I spend much time for every film.
Maybe talking about editing, which we started at the beginning, it's crucial because you're famous or significant for these long shots where you really see things happening and people are just as they are, yeah? There is nothing special that they are at the moment shot. But in a way, at that time, it was pretty radical to use these long shots. Now it's much more common, but in 90s, it was very new and fresh, I would say. Was it radical for you, or why did you decide to? I think in Birthday there are something like 20 shots, yeah, in the film.
17.
Yeah.
I don't know why. Maybe because it's intuitive, decision, unconscious. Because what I said newcomer, complete newcomer on filmmaking. And when I saw some film, I didn't understand why they cut so quickly, why they cut all the time. Because I see something very alive, very attractive, full of power, but why they kill this power? Why they kill immediately? Just for the sake of some idea? Why they cannot observe people? Why they they don't allow me as a spectator to see, but just they want, most of directors, they want to prove some idea. They want to prove, and they use image just to prove some concept, some idea. And for me it was strange, and I decided to, when I feel energy, I want to shoot, I want to continue, when I feel energy on screen. And for me it was, you're right, you said it was very rare examples that time when we see a real image, long takes and something. I had, when I was making my first film, Счастье, Happiness, and there is a take when a boy eating sour milk and sleeping at the same time. This long take, and when I started making this take, I asked a local cameraman, I had a local Kazakhstan cameraman, I asked him, let's shoot from one point, just let's put camera and let's shoot. Don't change position of camera, don't stop camera, even if you will feel that nothing happens. Just please wait. And it was really difficult to convince him, because I was a student, and he said, you don't understand. You don't understand filmmaking. There is Eisenstein. Do you know Eisenstein? Do you know what is image? What is editing image? You have to shoot from one point, then stop, another point, stop, from that side also, then you can cut image of this boy. It was really difficult because it was very far from city, and I could not change him. And he insisted to shoot Eisenstein style. We are Russians, Eisenstein like icon in Russia and in the world, but not for me. I think Eisenstein is great director, but not icon. I mean, it's only director, but very, very important. I admit, I understand this, but why I have to shoot like Eisenstein? I asked myself, and I said to him, okay, let's shoot first what I propose, how I propose, and then when we finish, I promise you we will shoot from different point, like you want. But I was sure completely 100% that I will take this. But once he stopped anyway, once he stopped, if you see this scene, you see one stop, there is one stop, because he stopped suddenly. I said again, and he switched on again, but he stopped because he was scared just of silence. Silence, and because all these professional cameramen, they shot on film, and they were afraid, of any pause, any silence, and only movement. They need only movement, but sometimes, sometimes silence and just emptiness very powerful. And but it was very difficult to prove this, because this guy was full of stamps, full of cliches, and I changed him later. But just when we finished this, I had, for this short film, 20-minute film, I have 4 cameramen, because it was very difficult. I changed again and again, because it's very difficult to convince them, to shoot. Please don't switch off camera, even if you see nothing happens. Sometimes nothing happens, but it's very powerful. That was for me. That's I understand very, very early when I was a student. Mm-hmm. I understand very early. Sometimes when I see long take, I hate some long takes, because if it's empty and no energy, I don't like this. I mean, there are long takes and long takes.
Yes.
And sometimes it's better not to switch on camera at all than to make long take, very long, but empty.
Yeah. Now it's different with media also, because it's shooting on digital, so it's very easy to shoot long takes. But I remember this pressure maybe starts on film school, or started at the time at film school, because I remember the same, that we were shooting at 16 millimeter. We had few boxes of film material, and everybody was telling us, but be careful, because when you are out of material, you have nothing more. Yeah, you have to.
Yes, but Mari, now there is another problem, because before it was problem. People they afraid of every when they switch on camera, they afraid every second. Now it's different. Yes. People afraid not to shoot. They want to shoot all the time, and they're afraid if I don't shoot, why I have to shoot?
I can miss something. Yeah?
Yes, because I have camera, I have all this equipment, and so why I need to shoot? I'm a filmmaker, and I think the most important what you don't shoot. Like Chekhov said, very important what you take out from your writing. Mm-hmm. This is important. What you take out, not you write, but what you take out from writing. Mm-hmm. And I think on film also very important what you don't shoot, what you don't use, because you have to think. Because now problem is all this equipment is very easy, very cheap, and there is no motivation to think over, to understand why you switch on camera, why you use this lens but not that one, why you make zoom, or why you move your camera. Because every change of position of camera, every movement of camera, this is change of energy. And we have to understand why we change energy. Very often it's just for nothing, just because it's a little bit more interesting, people say. But I don't understand what is interesting. I think energy is the main thing.
I would like to stay with this word energy, because I'm curious, what do you see in energy? Like where you find in the material or in the scene, in the place which you choose energy, how you decide?
Well, I don't know. I feel this just. I feel if I don't feel energy, I will not switch on camera at all. I will wait. Because the most important thing is to have patience, to have patience, and the most important thing is not to shoot. Because all cameramen, if they come to new place, they start immediately shooting, because they say, "Oh, look, interesting. This also interesting. Everything is interesting." They start shooting, and then in the end we have pile of material, but no story, just interesting. Everything is interesting, but this is surface. If you have to go deeper, then you have to wait, analyze, understand what you need, and then you have to start from some idea. Then you have to develop this idea. You can develop. You can change everything, but you need to start from something, not from just I have camera. I will shoot something. No, you need to understand why you switch on camera.
And how do you think about colors? Because, for example, in Bread Day, it was very specific use of colors. What's in the film, it works also in terms of colors. Is it just Occidental, or you have some kind of dramaturgy how to, maybe during editing, how to work with colors?
No, on documentary, it's, I would say, more or less occasional, because it's documentary. You cannot change, color in the shop, because there is a shop. And of course, if we can change, we change a little. But for me, like with sound, on Bread Day, some sound people told me, if you'd have better microphone for the bread seller, it would be better sound. You should put a radio mic to your clothes, and you'd have better sound. But for me, I don't need better sound here. I need atmosphere. I need real atmosphere. I don't want to spoil atmosphere. I don't want to break atmosphere. Because if I would put microphone, she would immediately remember and understand she's on film and there is microphone, she has to play somehow, that's why my first desire is not to destroy atmosphere. And for the sake of atmosphere, I use sometimes worse microphone, or not color what I need, but sometimes bad sound is better than perfect sound. Sometimes some dirt better than everything professional, very clean. But of course, we work with colors, and especially on documentaries as well, but also for fiction. Yes, there is dramaturgy of color, and we work a lot with this. For instance, on Aika, on my film, what we saw today, it was for us very important to have colors from icons, from Russian icons, because the girl, the main character, for us she's like a mother of God, because she's Asian mother, and we use a lot of colors from icons, from Russian icons, and not only from Russian, just to unconsciously to tell this story by colors, also colors of mother.
In your documentaries, but maybe also in fiction, the essential connection I always feel are those people who are in front of the camera. You at the end also written, I spend time with family this or family that, which are shot in my film. And you also said that you spend a lot of time making the film, but also maybe thinking about film and choosing the right protagonists or right places. How do you decide whom to shoot?
Well, sometimes it's different. Sometimes, for instance, for my first film, for Счастье, for Happiness, I knew that place because I worked for Aeroflot, and I knew Kazakh countryside, and I was curious how they survive, just one family in huge territory, how they can survive, how they can be happy, and it's difficult, really difficult to live there. And that's why I started that film. But for some other films, it's different. When I was making Highway, for instance, after Bread Day, one French producer, Chantal Bernheim, she said to me, "Let's make film together. Do you have idea?" And I had idea about truck drivers who carry melon and watermelon to Russia, from Kazakhstan to Russia. And she said to me, "Okay, but you have to write script." I said, "I don't write scripts for documentaries. This is my approach. I never write scripts for documentary. I just have initial idea, then I develop and analyze, and during shooting I develop this idea." And she said, "But we get money from BBC, and BBC require a script." I said, "But what can I write?" She said, "Write something how you imagine this film in the end." And I wrote something how I imagine, and we got money, and we started. I made research. I spent much time with truck drivers, researching and preparing and everything, and we prepared all with cameramen. We had our track, and we had engine, everything for Johnny, food, film stock, small fridge also for film stock and everything. And we wanted to start one day, and suddenly in this day we came to local market, and I saw a strange circus in this market. Strange people who, if you remember Highway, with hammer, they beat by hammer, by big, iron, piece. I don't know how to call in English this, and it was so strange, so severe, so unusual, and full of power, and that I was just shocked a little bit by that. But then, and we just started our journey, and in 5 or 10 minutes we were already on the way, and I thought, why we go there if there is a very interesting subject in this market? And I stopped, and I changed completely the main hero, main characters, and I made film about this circus family. We also traveled with them. I changed completely. My producer didn't know anything. In the end, she saw completely new everything, and I didn't tell it. But I was lucky because she could not come because it was far, very far in Kazakhstan. And I finished the film, and I shot some watermelons also inside the bus. She said, "Well, very good, but very few melons." And she said, but it was success. It was success. We won prize in Neon. I think some good festivals, and she liked the film, and people also liked. And she said, "Sergey, okay, but next time, please tell me something because it's not good." But I was completely sure that I need to make film about this circus because I don't know why, intuitively, I felt that I need to do that. With me, it's very hard. To be honest, it's very hard for myself also to work with Dvorcevoy, with director. Unpredictable, everything. And it's not for purpose. Sometimes I feel that I need to do like that. And I'm convinced 100%. That's why I change many things. That's why in my fiction films, I change like 80% or 90% of initial scripts. I change, and I use wrong method of shooting on fiction films because, compared with regular films, I shoot wrong. I make everything wrong. I don't use steps like preparation, then, research, preparation, shooting, editing, and so on. I make all in parallel, and for producers, it's awful. That's why now I'm one of producer also, because I want to take responsibility for my craziness, for this crazy approach. But I use this approach just because I feel like this, and I achieve result. And I think the most important thing is what you have on screen. It's not important how you shoot. You can shoot, you can shoot completely wrong and differently. But if you have energy on screen, this is the main important thing. I make film only with cameramen, just 2 people. For Bread Day, we made together on 35, huge camera, but only to get 2 people. Sometimes, but if I would use 20 people, it doesn't matter. Important what is on screen. Now I see this film, I can't imagine how we shot this. Today I saw again, and some scenes so unbelievable that really I don't understand how we shot this. By chance or by technique, or I don't know. But first of all, what is for me crucially important is time. I need time. I need a certain time. That's why maybe I made few films, because I need time for that, and for fiction also. I don't shoot like normally like regular films. Like sometimes people ask me, how many days? How many shooting days? I can't answer. I don't know. Because sometimes I shoot today, tomorrow I edit, next day I rehearse, and if I see actors, for instance for Aika, if actress is not ready for very emotional shooting, then I can edit again this day. I allow her to get concentration, to be prepared for next day of shooting. I'm very, very flexible with this. And this approach, very difficult, very unpredictable, but why not?
If you have any questions, please just raise your hands. If not at the moment, please think about your questions. But it's interesting that usually your films, documentary and fiction, has the same spirit of authenticity. Even the documentaries are different. I would like to ask if you are staging some scenes in staging.
In documentary?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes people think that, it's very funny, because when I made first film, Happiness, and it was a student film festival in Russia, and they gave prizes, and on documentary, they said, this film incredible, they said, but we will not give first prize because this is not documentary, they said. This is fiction. You know, and they gave like second prize. They didn't give one first prize to nobody, and they gave like second prize. You know, because, and now I have the same on fiction. Many people say, you make documentary, this is not fiction. How can I explain? Because, you know, I never make like just stage, like direct stage of any scene for documentary. The thing is that I know something sometimes. Like on Bread Day, for instance. On Bread Day, I saw like this, for instance, scene with dog and puppies. Dog eating and puppies are trying to eat milk, and the dog is running. And I saw this scene once there. When I was there, I saw, and I wanted just to shoot, if it's possible to shoot and to capture this. But I knew that scene more or less, you know. How I can say it's staged or not? It's not staged, but it's just what you know, and you expect that it will repeat. A lot of scenes like that I make, you know. Sometimes it's completely by chance, like goats kissing goats. It's completely by chance because we saw once we saw that, and we shot immediately because we were prepared for that. We had film stock enough and everything, and that's why we can shoot these scenes. Because one of my very important aspect for me is to be ready every minute for shooting. When you are in the place, shooting place, you have to be ready every second with equipment, with cameraman, with everything. We have to be ready. But I can shoot like that, and some scenes incredible. Even I myself, I can't believe we could capture this, like goats on Bread Day, these dogs, and these scenes. We shot that just because we had time. When you have time, you can capture miracle. But you need time to get miracle. You know, you need time. You need patience and time. If you don't have time and if you don't have patience, you will not be able to capture miracle. But people, they're not ready to see such a pure miracle sometimes. And they think, no, it's not possible. They made something. Like on, we shot on Happiness, we shot like the cow put head inside barrel, and then there is a scene, and they said maybe you put some food or something to the barrel. Nothing. It was just a little water, like in reality. But I also saw that scene once before, and we just try to capture again this. And with the boy from Happiness eating sour milk, also the same. I saw him once, and I wanted to repeat. I mean, to have miracles, you need time to get these miracles. And sometimes it looks like incredible, like it's not possible, like you can capture just this. That's why people very often ask me if you stage this or not stage. I never use something what I thought up and make scene. I just sometimes try to capture again what I know. But sometimes it looks so incredible, but people can't believe it's possible. But everything is possible if you have time. For instance, it's really, life is unpredictable. For instance, these goats, just one example, these goats kissing. Sometimes when we shot this, I couldn't imagine that we could capture. Because they behave like human beings, like the goats, and you can't imagine that the name of the one of goats is Julieta, this black one. In reality, you know, life is full of miracles, but to get and to see miracle and to capture this, you need time. And you need to understand what is in front of you. What is this? If there is energy, there is, let's say, kind of miracle or not. You need somehow, you know, you have to tune yourself, you know, have to be ready.
But for example, watching the bread day, you have a feeling that you spend there 2-3 days. But what was the reality? How long?
3 months. 3 months. For all my documentaries, I spent 3 months, except the last one, In the Dark, I spent 1 year with this old man. But it looks very simple. But you know, the stronger film, the more simple it looks. You know.
Any questions? Yes, please.
Yeah, just love your some of the poetry of what you're describing. For instance, the most important thing is not to shoot. Then your recent mentioning of miracles. Brodsky said there's no deeper loneliness than the memory of a miracle. So I'm just wondering, with such a kind of film ethic, there must be a lot of miracles that you do miss and things that don't repeat. So what do you do in those cases? Can you fill those gaps? Can you replicate the miracle that you missed in some form? Or can you imbue your story somehow with the energy of the miracle that's not even being shown?
Interesting question, yes. You mean documentary, yes? No, we're talking about documentary, because we are in documentary film festival, yes.
We are at the film festival, but yeah, let's talk about the
yeah. But for me, really, I don't. In my brain, in my mind, I don't differ. You know, because for me, cinema is cinema, and just different maybe method of capturing or creating a reality. On documentary, you capture a reality. You observe and you capture. On fiction, you create this. You create every second, and sometimes you also capture something, but mostly you create. But for these miracles, little miracles, it's hard to say, you know. But how to replace or how to repeat? The only thing what I know, I'm waiting. If I don't feel something, if I understand I need something, I feel, because when making a film, I make structure also, because there is structure in every film, because it doesn't matter what you make documentary film or fiction film, you need to understand how to build, how to make structure. I mean, like when you build a house, you need to understand how to build a house. You need to understand you need to create, first make basement, then, you know, windows somehow, walls and everything. You need to understand these skills, how to do this. And very often for me, problem of some documentary films, that I feel that documentary filmmakers, they don't understand sometimes that they need to make dramaturgy. They need to make dramaturgical composition of film. And it's just pity for me, because many journalists they start making documentaries, and they think that information is enough, just information, because important information. They don't understand that if you start dealing with image, with moving image, then you have to understand you deal with dramaturgy. You need to understand how to spread energy, how to compose your image, how to to make balance of energy, because for me film doesn't matter fiction or documentary. It's like flow of energy, because sometimes people say, how you edit? I don't edit information. I don't edit something else. I edit energy. For me, very important how energy flows inside my film. How you can make balance, and how I can spread. For me, film is much more closer to music than to literature or to theater or to something else. music because of time. Time is important issue. And when I build film, let's say build, yes? When I build film, when I make structure, when I feel that I need certain energy here, certain unique energy, then I will wait for this on documentary. Because if I will push, I will try to like you said, stage up something, you know, then the problem is it will be not possible, almost impossible to get atmosphere, to get right and very organic atmosphere. Atmosphere is very important. Like on Bread Day, for instance, we knew that they need to push wagon back, the last scene. And we tried to shoot several times this, you know. And once, like you see on screen, and sometimes, and I didn't like this because it was not enough, let's say, not enough naivety or something. Because now these people, they look for me like children. When they push back, how they talk, maybe because, I don't know how was translation, because in Russian language, they speak like children. They are very old, but they speak like children, like one team, you know, team of children. And I felt that I need something like that. And I was waiting. And I shot several times, and once there was frost, and the wagon was frozen, and they tried to push, and like you see on screen. And I asked my cameraman, don't switch off camera now. But camera was very heavy. It was REBL2, big camera, 35. It was very difficult for him. It was 10 minutes long take. And it was difficult for him, but I said, please don't switch off camera because a lot of energy, there is a lot of energy, and you will destroy this energy. Because every cut is like killing. You kill life. If you capture real life, you kill life. You need to have strong reason to kill life. And this scene, I just waited for this scene, and there is a unique scene in the end because of organic life. You know, they are very alive, and a scene is unique. Because when you deal with poetry, what you said about poetry, because poetry, if you make poetry, let's say you cannot deal with banality, because banality is something different. For poetry, it should be some uniqueness made of banality. It is difficult to explain in English. Maybe it would be easier for me to explain in Russian. I mean this contradiction between banality of real life and uniqueness of made of this banality. You understand what I mean? And it's very difficult to capture all this real uniqueness. I mean, a miracle for me, uniqueness.
And please tell us, how do you create reality, or how do you create miracles in fiction films?
In fiction film, depends, because, for instance, on Tulpan, there are also some scenes what I would not be able to shoot again. For instance, when the sheep gives birth, and when the guy tries to help her to give birth, it's a unique scene. It's not possible to repeat again, because you can spend 1 year waiting for this, and you will not be able to capture this. It was by chance or by preparation, strong preparation, but also by chance. But why I can tell you why I like very much this. Why I try to capture this uniqueness, because the more unique scene you can show, the more associations, how to say, the more people can think about this. The more, because when you explain everything, when you shoot banality, then only one explanation will be. But when you create uniqueness, there are a lot of explanations around, a lot of images, a lot of imagination. That's why the more unique scenes you shoot, the deeper and the deeper you film.
And why did you switch to fiction films in a way, even they are still like working with non-actors, and you try to keep this authenticity as much as possible, but still it's fiction. Even you change the script, there is still script. It's scripted reality in a way. There is some story. You missed something like this in documentary. You missed stories.
For me, problem on documentary films. This is personal. This is personal. My problem. My problem is that contradiction of documentary filmmaking. Maybe it's wrong to tell now about this here in Documentary Film Festival.
Don't be afraid.
But yes, but the worse for people, the better for director. This is problem for me. You know, because we make energy, but energy, if you have conflict, there is energy in conflict. You can't make film without any conflict. I mean, any conflict of image, conflict of, I mean, all aspects of conflicts. And but if you use conflict, then you use real people, and you use real conflicts. You use real problem of people, how they live, difficulties of their life, and so on. But you make piece of art of this, and you lie, because when you shoot, even if you put lens to your camera and you start shooting, then you lie, because you show only part of reality. I cannot make film about you, for instance, like about you know, about your person, about your character. I can just present part of you, part of your character. That means it's not truth, it's lie. And we need to understand that, but because some people told me after my films, why you made this? I thought you will make differently. I wanted to be more nicer or more interesting or something. You know, they're not happy. They're not happy, but they suffer sometimes. Like these people on Bread Day, there was very strange when these old people pushed wagon, but two young guys shot this. With camera just shot like old ladies push wagon. This absurdity. Why not to help them instead of shooting? Well, this is documentary filmmaking. You have to shoot how people suffer or something, but this is reality. How we can make films. Of course, we also pushed wagon. We put camera during break. We put camera inside wagon and we push together with them. But you don't see on screen this, because we see just deep scene, a real scene. But this inner contradiction of documentary film, for me personally, very difficult. This is painful for me because I spend much time. I live with these people, and for me it's very painful to leave them unhappy, unhappy what I made. And also I shoot, I spend much time, I live with them, and in the end I have to say goodbye. I leave. And that, but they consider you also already like a friend, almost as a relative. But you have to say, I finished, sorry, I need to start new film. And it's just part of your heart already, part of your soul, and you have to stop this. It's also another contradiction. And for me, one more reason, because now documentary films, more and more documentary, more and more closer to TV program. I don't know how is it in Czech Republic. In Russia now it's a reality because we want it very much to be part of TV. And now we are part of TV, but we are part of TV programs. And there is a crisis of documentary, creative documentary films. And it's very good that you have here a festival like your festival, Festival for Creative Documentaries. And you develop this, you work with this. And I see many people here screening. It's very, very important, but it's difficult for me. Was very difficult when I was making my last film in the dark, and I applied in one fund to get money, and they said we have experts, and they said you don't need this time for this film. I asked money for certain time. They said you need 2 weeks for this film. I said why? They said because we have experts, and experts said he doesn't need this time. And it was very difficult to convince. I need certain time. Please give me this possibility, because TV it's like standard. They need certain time, certain money. Sorry, but
it's just program.
Nothing personal business.
But speaking about truth in documentary and fiction and the limits of it, how you are sure that in fiction it's truth? Because then it's a story, it's scripted. Easily it can be over-scripted. There'll be too much conflicts. So where do you find this balance that you feel that it's in a way really true?
For fiction, I use very strange approach. First, I write script myself with co-writer, with my friend. We write regular script, fiction script, very well done, let's say, very, very well made, everything balanced, And then, first what I make, I shoot the whole script, I shoot with very simple, cheap camera. I shoot like very quickly, everything. Even in different places, in different locations, sometimes with different actors, but I shoot all scenes one by one. I shoot all, and I have a kind of outline of film. I have the whole film shot on this very cheap camera. I make this first step, just to understand what is this, because script is literature, but film is not literature. And for me, on the contrary, when I can write about something, why I have to make film about this? If I can write, I need to find something what I cannot write about, what I cannot write somehow to tell the story, because I need to find images, and making this first, let's say, outline of film, or in Russian language we call this maquette. I don't know, do you understand, or something, some maquette. It's like in architecture. When you build house, first architecture, they make a house of paper, small house of the same house, but small. And I make this on film. And then when I have this, I see, I can judge, I can weigh.
So you do it with actors, or?
With actors, but not with main actors. With some people sometimes, even with my assistants. And I have this flow of energy, what I said. And for me, very important to understand what I have, what kind of energy, and how a time flows inside this story. And when I feel that there is no cinema, there is no film there, only literature, then I change everything. And next step is I start changing. And I change step by step during preparation, then during shooting. And in the end, I have, for Aika, for instance, 80% of, I change every 80%. I changed. On Tulpan as well, the same. Just because I try to find something during shooting unpredictable, or sometimes some uniqueness from reality, from life. I want to somehow to put life to this literature, and I change a lot. And for instance, only the main story on Aika the same, like it was on script, but I changed 80% of scenes and many things on this, for the sake of reality, for the sake of truth. I mean creative truth, not truth like it is, because I said every film is lie. It's not truth, but it's creative truth, artistic truth. Let's say artistic truth. For the sake of this artistic truth, I change everything.
Do you have any questions, please?
Thanks. Hi. I was wondering about sound. You were elaborating already a bit about the image, and just wanted to hear some thoughts of you about sound in general. Maybe not just technical, but also philosophically.
With sound, sound for me is not technical part of film, because sound, with sound we can change a lot with dramaturgy of sound, because I realized this very well when I was making my last documentary film In the Dark, when I had only main character, the old man, and the cat, and this flat, his flat where he lived, and I realized how sound is important there, and how I can change everything with sound. Just changing sound in a particular scene, I can change everything. But I had my own approach, because I worked with on Tulpan, my first fiction films. Before, for my documentaries, I made sound myself. I mean, I recorded sound and I edited sound myself. But for fiction film, I used French sound recordist. French, they are the best recordists. I mean, for me, the best technically. From technical point of view, they are the best, and also from mentality, they have great tradition of sound. And he was angry with me because we made long takes, and sometimes I have to tell something to actors, because if you make long take, sometimes actors, they don't feel rhythm, pace. Sometimes they lose something, some pace or something. And I need to sometimes to tell something to actors, shortly, briefly, just to tell few words. And the sound recorders, French sound recorders, he was angry with me. Every day we had discussions. Why again today you told something? He said you destroyed sound in the scene. You destroyed completely. And he was fan of sing sound, only sing sound, and no one change. I understand, because French tradition, there is Jacques Rivette and other directors, and for sound, in France, they have long traditions, rich traditions of sound. And for me, I like very much sing sound also. For instance, that's why for me very difficult to see Tarkovsky films, for instance, Mirror and his other films, because I feel recorded sound. I feel sound recorded in studio, not sing sound. But I like sing sound, but I like also to change sound a little bit, to cut something if I don't need this, or to put on the contrary something what I need. If I need to change, because sound is very strong, very important tool how to change energy inside the scene with sound. That's why every particular scene we can talk and discuss how I made sound, but I make for every scene, even for my fiction films, I make draft of sound, first editing of sound I make myself, because for me it's very important to sometimes to change balance of the scene with sound, and it's very hard for me to work with sound editors on fiction films, because they used to work differently. They used to work with they are designers of sound. They design. If you give them film in post-production, you give them film, you give them all material, all sound, and they make design of sound themselves. But for me, it's not possible. I make design of sound myself, using sound not only like nice possibility to make nice sound, but deep sound. I mean proper sound which make stronger your energy. And that's why for my first film I made first sound design in Switzerland, and I remade from scratch again in France, because it was wrong completely, because they made exactly like I said, they made their own vision of sound, and I was forced to remake again everything. And for my last film, for Aika, it was the same. I had Polish also sound designer, and she started working with sound herself, and then she also made everything differently. She cleaned sound, she cleaned every dialogue, she cleaned all atmosphere, and then I had to remake again, because I don't need clean sound. I don't need everything perfect. Sometimes, on the contrary, I need dirty sound. Sometimes I need strange sound. Sometimes I need to change, everything. I mean, I work a lot with sound during shooting and during editing process also. But it's all I make during shooting. I edit sound also during shooting. It's very strange approach. Sometimes when I talk to young filmmakers with students, they invited me to masterclass or something. It's very hard for me to talk to students, because I can imagine their teachers, they told them how to make film properly, but what I'm telling wrong. And for me, it's like a shame sometimes to tell to young people, because I'm afraid I can spoil them somehow, because they need to first to study alphabet, let's say alphabet of filmmaking. But what I make, I destroy alphabet. I change alphabet. I make completely with wrong approach. But maybe my example is that, film is, we can make films differently. And what we're talking about, we can make films differently. But I mean, the most important thing is to find your own approach, how to achieve result, what you want.
Prosím, mikrofon.
By the way, you will answer now, but I will tell you about my. I use this approach to make first, I said, maquette of film for fiction, and my camera DOP, director of photography, Jola Delewska, she said about my approach in Poland to some people, and one director decided to repeat, to make also this first maquette of film, and for him it was for nothing. He not necessary. In the end, he said, "Why I made this?" He said, "I shot 2 times the same film." I change. I make this because I change. This for me just first step. But if you just make illustration of script, why you need to make 2 illustrations of script?
Здравствуйте. Здравствуйте, Sergey. Yeah, my question was exactly about DOP. Like, how do you choose your cinematographer, and how would you prove yourself that this cinematographer is ready to catch your miracle and that things which will never repeat? For me, it's interesting at the same time as for your documentary movies, the same as for fictions.
You are from Russia?
Yeah, из Almaty.
Ah, Almaty. Okay. From Almaty, from Kazakhstan. I'm also from Kazakhstan. For my documentaries, I worked with Alisher Hamid Khodjaev. This is a Uzbek Russian film cameraman, and he is very creative person, and I was lucky because he wanted very much to make some extraordinary image, and he is very hard-working guy. And can you imagine now? I think you can't imagine now because you don't know what is this Arri 2 camera, right? Somebody knows, no? Yes, this big camera, 20 kilogram, 20 kilo camera, and now we have like maybe 4 or 5 people in the fiction film. 5 people around this camera, assistants, like mechanic and so on. And he walked alone with this big camera. I was his assistant because I carried spare magazine for him. Big, huge magazine, 300 meters of 35 mil negative. And but he was very hardworking. Now, by the way, I think he already he became a regular director of photography. He is also a big team now. But before he was young and he was stronger. Because we were crazy, because you know it's really crazy to make film on 35, just two people team. But we discussed with him everything for documentary. For instance, the first scene, what you see on Bread Day, first scene when the train coming to the place. This is the scene is 10 minutes long, and we knew that train will come. For instance, about stage, about scenes, we knew this scene. We knew that the train will come, and they will start pushing wagon. They will talk a little bit somehow, but we didn't know really 100% how it will happen. We knew more or less, and we discussed with him how he should move with camera. For instance, if the locomotive driver will go that way, you have to follow him, or you have to stop and you have to shoot these old women or animals, dogs, or wagon. We discussed a lot of options before. But in the end, he decided how to move with camera. But he knew, in other words, we had corridor of improvisation. But we had corridor. We put this corridor of improvisation, and he improvised, but within this corridor. And but he knew that he must do like that. He was not afraid of this, and I mean. Every scene is a lot of discussion with cameraman, a lot of discussion. But this is for documentary. But the most difficult thing for cameraman on this kind of documentaries, to be ready every minute, to have ready equipment, everything ready, to be ready to shoot next second if something will happen. Because it was film, now it's easy because you have now this camera, small camera, and you can switch on any time. But with film, it was very difficult. But not only because of film, but also because of mentality. Because it's very difficult to be ready every second. Very difficult. You can't relax. You can't relax if you are in the set. You know, that's why Alisher is very important cameraman for me, because he was ready for that, and he was, on the contrary, he was not only ready. He was keen to capture something. He was passionate very much because he's very, very artistic cameraman, of course. He's artist, in fact. And for the fiction, when I was starting Tulpan, I didn't have Alisher. He was busy, and I didn't know how to start a new film. I didn't have cameraman. And my producer, Karl Baumgartner, Baumi, he told me, I have one woman director of photography. I said, come on, not with me. No, because after Bread Day, can you imagine camera, heavy camera, how a woman can carry this camera? I know because I work very, very differently. I mean, it's very hard to work with me. Very heavy, very hard. Heavy, I mean technically, but hard because I'm so unpredictable director. And also, I convince, you know, and I'm very concentrated what I want to capture. And he said to me, I said, please don't. Let's not work with women. But he said, okay, just try to meet with her, just talk with her. And I met Yola. Maybe you know Yolanta Delevska. She does look like camera woman. She does look. She looks more like an accountant, I would say. Very soft, very very polite, very like very special. She's very special, very kind. And I said, listen, it's very difficult. I don't advise you to work with me because I'm very crazy director, stubborn. You will shoot in the steppe, insects, snakes, spiders, and everything. But she said, no, I won't. And I tried to somehow to scare her. And she said, no, I won't. And then I said, okay. And I thought maybe 2 weeks. 2 weeks she will be able to be there. Then I will get rid of her. No, she was one of the strongest in the end. One of the strongest, very strong. This is my experience that women they are stronger, stronger in distance, stronger. Men they can, of course, they are very strong and they can work hard, short period. But women they can work more, and they are more. How to say? Stronger for me. And I was lucky because Yola, she's not only camera woman, she's very creative, and she made also, I think she made also director's course, and she knows very well dramaturgy and everything. But she never disturbed me. She never bothers me like, okay, my idea is different, or she doesn't fight with me. But she is very creative, and she is like co-author for me. She is not only camera woman. I was just lucky to meet her. And for me now it's not a matter of woman or man. It's just who is this, and we discuss everything. We discuss lens, all color, composition, everything. We discuss everything, of course, many times and during shooting. But she's one of a rare person who doesn't complain. If I shot what I said, Aika, we shot for 6 years, and she never complains. She wants very much to make extraordinary film. This is the most important thing. She wants very much, and she loves art. She loves film, and I'm happy with her.
Because we are getting a little bit out of time, I have to say that there are 2 other screenings of your film.
All the time I'm here. This,
but it's good. It's
out
good.
of time.
We have just somehow leave the translators to go to other screenings. But I would like to ask the last question, coming to the things you said at the beginning, that you started to make films without not watching many. Yeah. And I would like to ask where you find inspiration today, because, for example, your colleague, Russian filmmaker Viktor Kosakovsky, says that he is watching hundreds and hundreds of films every year to really know what's going on. But is it the same way for you, how to keep ready and to know what's new in contemporary cinema, or you just find few titles, prefer to read books, or where do you find strong energy for your next films?
First of all, I'm a film fan. I film lover. I like very much films, and I watch a lot of films just because I love. It's not because of reason, motivation, or to find something. I love image. I love to see, but sometimes for me it's hard to see bad image, because it's like music. You feel like very bad music, and painful sometimes. Painful to see bad image. Bad image. I mean not technically, but when I feel wrong cuts, or when I feel that camera moves differently, or sometimes camera completely crazy somehow. I don't know why. What reason? And when I feel that director or cameraman kills image, or on the contrary, create emptiness, also painful to see. But I love. First of all, But and I see a lot of films. I watch a lot of films, documentary, fiction. I love very much talented films. But for me, it's very difficult to. I find motivation in life, in reality, in real life. I love very much to travel by underground in Moscow, because Moscow underground is something, because a lot of people, they go from all parts of Russia, a lot of foreigners, a lot of ordinary people, different faces and everything, energy. It's like flow of energy, and I like very much to go and to see these people. It's like life in front of you, life. And motivation, I get motivation from life. And I'm afraid to talk much about films and about myself. Not about films, but about my films and about myself, about my style, about how I make something. Because I think it's dangerous for director. Because I think most of directors they make first films very well. Many examples. Then first films the best, and but then they repeat themselves, or they make something not so strong. And I ask myself why. And for me, explanation is that when director make first strong film, then directors start thinking how I could make this, how I could create this, let's say, miracle. And the more they think, the worse for them. Because the more they think, the more they analyze themselves, the more they lose spontaneity. Because these first films, they are full of spontaneity. They are spontaneous in these films. And when they want to repeat success, they make just scheme. They make just something, let's say, simple mathematics of this. But they lose spontaneity. They lose something what goes from inside, and what is not calculated. Because they want to calculate success, how to achieve the same success. And they lose spontaneity. And they lose intuition. They lose all these things. That's why, like my mother said once, maybe you can help me to translate. Because I don't know some words in English. My mother's, maybe I can say something in English, something in Russian, but you will translate to people. My mother, she makes very well pelmeni. How to say pelmeni? Dumplings. Yes, dumplings. And when they make dumplings, they make thin parts of testa. How to yes, and she makes with a special device. She makes things. And my wife once asked my mother, how you can make so thin pieces and they're not, они не прилипают к этой.
They don't stick together.
They not stick, they don't stick. And she asked my mother, how you do this? And my mother said, but she said, I didn't know how I do this. She said, and I started thinking, why I make like this? And as soon as she started thinking how she makes this, they started sinking. Sticking, yes, sticking. By chance, I don't know. This is example exactly when you think too much about yourself, it will stink everything. Right?
I think this is a great advice not only for filmmakers.
Thank you very much for your attention.
So, dear Sergey, thank you very much for joining us in Ji.hlava, and please use this opportunity and to find those other 2 screenings and watch these films, and then ask Sergey what you are interested in. We are very happy you are here with us. Thank you.
Thank you.